This zone, called Morlais, the voice of the sea, is 35 square kilometres of seabed off the coast of Holy Island. Mentor has a 45-year lease to develop that zone in order to progress tidal stream energy and make it important to the UK economy. 240 megawatts of capacity in that zone. In other words, enough to power 1/3 of all of Anglesey's energy needs. 1/3 of that demand could be met by tidal turbines off the coast of Holy Island, 240 megawatts. We have very strong tidal resource here, uniquely so. What makes us different, makes us interesting. Likewise, we have future-proof grid potential. There was a grid link from Wilva to Anglesey Aluminium, which is a full whack national grid spur. It is still there and it can be utilised to export power into the grid from here on Anglesey. And finally, we have customers. In other words, we have companies who produce turbines in Europe, in America, here in the UK, very keen to come to Morlais to deploy their turbines. And the good news is, and I'll note this quite early on, the good news is that the first company to deploy will be doing so in 2026. The first turbines, 5.6 megawatts of them, will be deployed in 2026. What are the characteristics of tidal energy? Why is it good? There are three forms. You've heard about lagoons. That's not what we'll be doing here. That uses the vertical power of the tide coming in and going out. Then there's wave power, which is the movement of the water, on the surface of the ocean. We're not doing that here either. Our waves aren't powerful enough. What we are doing is tidal stream, which is harnessing the horizontal force of the tide coming in and the tide going out. And because of that, I'm sure you'll agree, one very important thing about tidal stream energy is that it's predictable. We know the cycles of the moon, we know exactly when the tide comes in, when it goes out. We will be able to predict exactly how much power is produced by these turbines during the course of a year. And thirdly, what's the state of the industry today? Where are these turbines? Some are being produced in Europe and Germany. They've reached what's known as the top TRL level. TRL means technology readiness level, and I don't want to get into too much detail on acronyms and so forth. But it means that they work. They know that they work, but they haven't been tested yet in a commercial arena. In other words, where you set an array of individual turbines in a pattern to see how they behave and how they perform when they're relatively close to each other. Does one turbine here take out too much energy from the sea so that the next one is affected? That sort of dynamic operates within an array. So that's CRL. That would be commercial readiness level. All of these turbines that you'll see from me later on now have achieved the top of their TRL, their technology readiness, tested singly. They've not yet been tested commercially in groups, in arrays, out there in the sea, which is what's going to happen here in Holy Island. Why here? Why the UK? Why here? Well, first of all, because the Atlantic finds itself rushing in from the Atlantic into a fairly narrow, comparatively narrow passage between Ireland and Wales. We have very, very strong tides in that channel, and they come to their nadir. Is it nadir at the top?
Yeah.
Yes, nadir when they get towards South Sac, and then they pile onwards through Isle of Man, round Scotland, and you get very high tidal speeds up in the Orkneys in Scotland as well. But there are three areas that I've shown you on the map here that were designated by the Crown Estate in 2014, precisely because they have very strong tides. One was North Devon, the second is ourselves here, and the third was the Isle of Islay in Scotland. Of those three, there is another one that's off the map in the Orkneys that we won't talk about because it's the Scottish Coral States, etc. However, Anglesey is the only one of these zones, designated zones, that has had development work done on it. It's now consented for 240 megawatts. It's the biggest consented tidal stream site in the world. Also, the infrastructure connecting the seabed to Parc Cubby, where the ManWeb connection is, the distribution network connection, has been completed by the Jones Brothers Company of Ruthyn, who were appointed to undertake £34 million worth of work doing that infrastructure. If you travel to South Stack today, tomorrow, sorry, I'm going to hit you in the face in a minute, so my apologies. Yes, so that infrastructure work will be completed in October, and as I say, preparation for the first turbines going into the water in 2026. You might ask me, why is it that only Anglesey has been developed? What happened to the other two? The brief answer is that we had access to European fund capital over the last 10 years, which wasn't available in Islay, and wasn't, I don't believe, available in North Devon either. This heat map demonstrates where the real tidal strength, tidal power is. Those red areas don't tell you where the real power is. And the grid that you see superimposed upon it, which I hope you can see, is our attempt to create berths which have an equal level of tidal power in each one. We have developers in almost all of those berths now signed up to deploy at some stage over the next 20, 30 years. You'll also be aware, and this has been noted to me before the meeting, of the consent challenge here. I was brought up on Holy Island, and I know how important it is to all of us, how important the views are, how important the mammals are, the sea mammals, the birds. All of this we've had to take into account in our application for planning permission. You'll know that the RSPB is up there. It's their second busiest site in the UK. Very important. And the consent characteristics, it's a high quality environment. I don't know why the good Lord did this, but all the high tidal power is in areas of outstanding natural beauty. Wherever you go in the world, it's the wildest areas that have the high tidal speeds. So that's how it is. If we are to make use of this technology, we must find ways of marrying consent objectives to our longer term energy and taking care of the